of penalty are they looking to receive? Right? That's what we're about to find out in just a day's time. Now we all know sometime we don't know exactly what time these things are going to come out because they happen in different sides of the world, or maybe boards finish or things happen. We don't know what kind of certificates are going to be like issued, what all kind of paperwork they have to be worried about. What I want to talk about right here is not only expectations, but let's go back, right? Let's go back to some of the actions of team principals, some of the quotes, some of the comments made, because right now there's a lot of there's a lot of it wasn't me, it's not me. These are false allegations, and they very well may be because when the initial report came out that there were two teams speculated, those two teams were Aston Martin and Red Bull. All right, so let's first know that Wednesday tomorrow will be the day where we find out where all the chips lay. Hands down, unless they decide that they're going to postpone something for some reason, which in itself may come off odd because I think a bit of the Formula One community is all a little bit hyper reactive in regards to the FIA and FOM and their decisions that they've made thus far, right? So another thing is this. There is a limit right there. We have the 5% or over, which is going to be considered the major, and that's the materials breach, all right? 5% or over. Then we have the 5% or less, which is the minor. Now, these two directions carry different type of penalties in which can be enforced, but may not be limited to be enforced. But in general, the major breach is going to consist of championship points from either the constructor or the driver, or maybe even both, and also could also travel into wind tunnel time, testing, future competitions, future championships, many other things that could be impactful to a team's championship run, whether that's the constructor or the drivers. Now, when we come to the minor, we're looking at more sporting penalties, right? We're looking at things like maybe possibly drive-through penalties or something like that, but it doesn't equate to championship points as how it's laid out. It's not to say that they can't change things because we've seen FIA and the Formula One go kind of mix things up, make kind of rules on the go. And it seems to be, it depends on who it is type situation. Okay. So when we're talking about 5% or more, now last season, I believe the cost cap ceiling was 145 million. That would mean that your 5% or more would be about 7 million, 7.25 million and up would be your major. 7.25 million would be low. If you come into today, 140 million, right, which has been a topic, and we're going to get into that, you're looking at 7 million, probably like 7 million or more for major, 7 million or less for minor. Okay. Don't quote me on the numbers. If you want to do the numbers, do them yourself. I'm not trying to be a big numbers guy. I'm just trying to paint you a landscape to let you know just about in the ballpark what you have to go over in order to be over to be considered major or minor. So let's first talk about the fact that there have been certain claims right now by team principals to how they feel about what is going on right now. There have been certain team principals to come out and say certain things that I find kind of funny that they themselves would say this, all while their past does not really say that they would say this. And the first person I'm going to talk about is Binotto. Binotto from Ferrari, or the Ferrari director, seem to think that they want these rules heavily enforced. Mary Beanie, if the FIA do anything, I'll believe when I see it. Good afternoon, family. Just give him another fake championship. I'm over Team Lewis Hamilton forever. Hey, I understand that. What I want to do here is I want you to taper your expectations, but I want to give you a little bit of background because there are some things that people have said that may lead us to kind of think about like, maybe it could be somebody we didn't expect. Maybe it could be nobody. Maybe it might be indeed who we all expect. But Binotto from Ferrari said, or actually, I don't think it was Binotto. I forget the dude's name, but basically, Ferrari has said that they want the penalties to be strict. They also want full disclosure about the findings of who is and who hasn't gotten a certificate and pretty much why. I find that kind of odd, seeing as Ferrari was under the damn microscope one season because they were performing overly well, and come to find out they were under inspection or investigation. Things were found in this investigation that led them to be penalized heavily, yet those things were not undisclosed to us. They were not disclosed to us. They kept those things from the public and the rest of Formula One, and even teams had an issue with this. So now for Ferrari to kind of take this stance that they want penalties to be reinforced strictly, which I understand that because they had to pay that bag, right? But the other part that they want everything to be fully disclosed was kind of like undisclosed. I'm kind of like, you want to know everything when you didn't want to tell everything? I understand intellectual property, right? But come on, it's an investigation. You were doing something wrong. You got caught doing something wrong. They didn't tell us exactly what you did wrong, but yet they fined you, and you never told us what you did wrong. That's kind of hypocritical coming from Ferrari to say this, right? Ferrari definitely might want to pump their brakes on that. That's something they might want to chill back. You are right, 2019 with the illegal engine, Mary Beanie, and through little research and kind of finding out things that FIA changed and regulations that came in place. And I really think it was fuel sensors. Additional fuel sensors may be placed differently, which could cause the engine to run a lot better. If you've ever had an engine tuned, it is very, very critical to where your O2, your wideband, all these sensors are, so that the engine can collect certain amounts of information and therefore adjust the engine and air and fuel ratio to either give you more performance, or if you have them in a totally screwed place, you're going to be robbing yourself of performance. Well, evidently, Ferrari probably did something like that, and they were probably only supposed to have a certain amount of sensors in certain locations, and they breached that, and that's what was found. But that is not what was said, because it wasn't in the report. It's just kind of me going through information and kind of little breadcrumbs to kind of figure out, like, somebody messes up, this is the rules you change. It must not be a coincidence that you changed these regulations and implemented this just following the Ferrari investigation. So take what you want of that. I'm just saying, what's up, fam? Galacticus, what's up, Mimi? So just take what you want of that, but just note that, Ferrari is saying they want these things to be enforced firmly. Now, let's go into Red Bull. Let's go into some of the claims or some of the statements made about Red Bull in the past, before now. Now, as you see, this Christian Horner was called for urgent discussion about the Formula One budget cap due to the financial impact of global events. Here we are again. Now, I'm not saying that global events didn't cause an impact on finances or money, even us as normal consumers, shipping, the ability that we can get certain things, but costs are escalating. And Christian Horner wanted basically more money, because the 22 season would have $140 million. That was going to be the cap, which is a $5 million drop from the previous season. And in 2023, it will drop another $5,000, being $135 million. Okay. His concerns were, as staff and such, but Christian Horner was one of the first team principals to start launching a protest on basically upping the cap. Right then and there, upping the cap. He was one of the first. All right. So do not forget that Christian Horner was one of the first to advocate for trying to get FIA and Formula One to raise the cost cap. Okay. He was that person. Why does he want to do that? Well, he said, hey, it was about, you see what he says right here. I mean, we don't even have to guess. You see what he says right here. It's dropping $5 million from 145 in 2021 to 140 million this season, and to 135 million the following season. We all know that global situations are not going to always go season to season to season. So there could be some things to why Christian Horner, or some other motives to why Christian Horner would want them to increase the cost cap, especially if he may know that there's going to be books that we turn in. If I can somehow get people to come together, get team principals to come together and raise this cost cap, maybe possibly I can avoid penalty. Maybe. Speculation. Not saying it's true. I'm just saying that he was one of the first to try to come out advocating that they raise the cost cap, all right? But he's not the only one, all right? We're going to be fair. It's not the only one, okay? If we come down later, there were 3 teams that were not with raising the cap. Okay, now they wanted to raise the cap by almost $70 million. Okay. There were three teams that were not in favor of Christian Horner and other people thinking. And if you look right there, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner says teams freight costs in particular are doubling in 2022 as a result of factors like COVID and Ukraine-Russia war. I doubt that he's concerned about shipping costs. Just me. I doubt he's concerned about shipping costs. Let's just kind of be a little bit more realistic. But three teams that were not in favor of raising this cost cap. Do you know who they are? Do you know these three? France, what's going on? I see you. I see you. Matter of fact, let me give you your props, France. Let me give them to you. Let me read your super chat, good sir. Let me see that. Super chat says, I think we all know that Red Bull are the ones that have done the wrong pertaining to the cost cap. And I am in way of thinking probably so. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, all right? Squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if you see right here, now the three teams that were against it were Alfa Romeo, Alpine, and Haas. Those are the three teams that were not in favor of raising the cost cap. So if you have three teams not in favor, we know there are 10 teams on the grid. That means at least 10 teams either were in favor or chose not to weigh in on whether the cost cap was going to be raised or not, okay? But adamantly, there were three teams that were not going with it, and that was Alpine, Alfa Romeo, and Haas. Now, we can look at Haas. Haas took forever before they decided to bring in upgrades even this season, right? They're not one of the most luxurious teams on the grid. They don't have the same deep pockets as other teams on the grid, especially the top five performing or top four teams. And when I say top four teams that I believe have more finances available to them, I'm talking about Mercedes, I'm talking about Red Bull, I'm talking about McLaren, and I'm talking about Aston Martin. Those four teams by far probably have a bit more capital and money to utilize on upgrades if there were an unlimited amount of cost cap. If there was no cost cap ceiling, those four teams would be able to obscenely increase and upgrade their cars so far beyond the rest of the grid that indeed there would be only a race among four. But since there's a cost cap, that helps to kind of regulate not only the competitive nature and environment of Formula One, but also it doesn't just allow another team to just dictate the grid just because they have the deeper pockets. You need to get more into your engineers, ingenuity, finding out what's going to work for the bits of your car, and it has to be within this financial bubble. And that is what we're getting into. Who has breached this financial bubble to get an advantage over the rest of the grid for something that has been mandated? And that's what we're going to find out on Wednesday. Who has and who has not? Maybe nobody has, right? So, yes, you got those three teams. They weren't in favor of it. So, next, what I mean when I say not the only one. You had Toto Wolff, all right? He stressed that he doesn't want F1 to lift the ceiling just to outmaneuver the smaller teams. Remember what I was just talking about. But said he wanted to pass some of the extra allowance onto the team staff to adjust their salaries for inflation. Now, remember what I talked about, us as normal consumers. Listen, there are all kinds of people. There are so many people involved in that team or all teams in Formula One, aside from who we see in the car, who we see just in the garage, who we see in front of the camera all the time. You got all the mechanics. You got the marketing team. You got people who are helping with the hospitality section. There are so many people employed there that are not getting those limelight checks, but are having to deal with real world situation and inflations of groceries, utilities. And Toto was saying that I want to get money to try to put into their pockets for the crew, the staff. It's not that we want to generate more profit. It's literally allowing people to have their salaries compensated for the extraordinary inflation they are suffering from. That's what Toto said. But once again, I'm just keeping it a buck here, a buck. Is that something that you can completely believe? Now, true enough, Toto's statement definitely seems genuinely about trying to help the individuals that are behind the scenes that contribute heavily to these teams being able to perform on race Sundays, on qualifying Saturdays, on FP3, FP2, FP1, and throughout the week traveling. It seems like it's legit. But once money goes into an organization, right? And you just allow it to say it. Unless you start implementing strict guidelines on tracking where that money's going to go, being sure that none of this money filters into the car, you open up a bucket of worms. So yes, Toto's concerns are his intent seem genuine, but you cannot be for sure. So it's not like we can completely rule out that Toto Wolff and Mercedes may not be a team that broke the cost cap or breached the cost cap. But I would also like to say Toto Wolff took a very strong stance out of the gate when rumors circulated that they themselves and Mercedes were using used parts. We were trying to do our best to stay under the cap. Now, remember, there's a 5% increase, like a 5% and more, major, 5% and less, minor, okay? We're going to see where these teams landed up. Who went over as much and who blew through the roof as much is what we're going to find out come tomorrow. All right. Mimi says Max should not even be champion. I ain't going to even debate that. He shouldn't be champion. Even with the cost cap situation, we can move that. Max shouldn't be champion literally because rules were broke. Things were rearranged. In 2021, indeed, was a scandal in Abu Dhabi. That reason alone is there. Like, period. That's there. So, Mimi, you have a very good point even before we get to this. I already made a video earlier. You can go watch that when I talked to as what could possibly happen to Red Bull if they are found to be guilty, or any other team if they're found to be guilty in breaching the cost cap. You can go and check that video out. It came out before we went live. All right, so the other thing is this. Let's get to something else. All right, so here we are right here. There are things that are excluded from being included into the cost, okay? So some of those things are, and not limited to, marketing, driver services, heritage asset activities, F1 activities, non-activities, utilities for the plant, and lease costs for the plant. So there are several areas of finances that they do not include or take part in what could be concerned of breaking the cost cap or breaching the cost cap, all right? There are things that you can put money into, and it's not going to be included into that cost cap bubble. It will be outside of that. So those are a list of things, but not limited to those things that I outlined. That's just some of them, okay? I've looked at a lot, and there's a lot to be laid out. And in some parts, there are subsections to parts, but there are definitely things that teams can put money into that are not involved, are not included in the cost cap bubble. But the things that are, definitely plenty are outlined in there. And that is what the certificates being issued or not issued will have impact on. And that will be a clear indictment on who did and who didn't. Unless, like I say, unless things are done behind the scenes where they will not divulge to us who and what happened, right? We should be able to see a full list of who is getting certificates and who is not getting a certificates. And when I mean a full list, I mean we should see damn near who exactly is not getting a certificate. And we should be able also to see why are they not getting a certificate. Is it a major? Is it a minor? And then after that, there should be an immediate action of issuing out penalties to the teams who breached the cost cap. All right. It should be immediately known these teams are right now on the docket to receive penalties for breaching the cost cap. They breached the cost cap by said percentage, 5% more, 5% less. They will be docked championship points from either the constructor or the driver, or they will be docked from both constructor and the driver. And then we should see how many points they're docked, how much money they're fined, how much wind tunnel or testing time are they going to be docked or given. We should be able to see all of this information, all of it. It's not like it's a big contract. There should be no more Ferrari hiding intellectual property, but issuing them a fine. We as spectators of Formula One should have the right to know what teams are playing dirty and what teams are not. And up until this point, and probably beyond this point, Formula One and the FIA have done a shit job of holding up integrity to not only their spectators, but also their competitors. Just keeping it real. They got to do a better job. They got to do a better job. And right now, the job is not being done with utmost respect. It's being done with to me, arterial motives in mind, other plans in mind. Definitely, you can tell some of there's just things going on. Like just keep the sport clean, keep it right. If anything's spicy, let it be racing incidents. If anything's wrong, let it be personal disputes between drivers or teammates. That we can accept. But for us to watch a governing body that is supposed to be an authority to uphold integrity, commitment, honor within a system, and seeing it continuously fail, not accidentally, but seems like it's intentionally done, it doesn't hold well for us. It doesn't do well for us. For some of us, there are a lot of people that may not be in this chat right now that will be making comments later. It's fine for them. They got low integrity. They probably don't do much with their life. All right. They probably okay with cheating. They need to have something happening along the lines of Armstrong when he was found to be steroid and doping up and cheating and cycling. Hey, you see what they did to Armstrong, right? Formula One needs to make an example. All right. Even if it's never too late. It's never too late to make things right. To make things right for yourself, to at least say, you know what? I realize my wrongs. I want to make it right. You might not receive the energy you want when you decide to make it right. But what will be noticed and noted is that you did take a stand on finally making it right. And there might be some trust to be gained and held later. And you know what I'm talking about. You cheated somebody. You cheated a great somebody. You cheated a GOAT somebody. Make it right. Probably will never happen. All right. So I also want you all to taper your expectations on the fact that even if Red Bull is found to be guilty, or McLaren is found to be guilty, or Ferrari or Mercedes or any other team is found to be guilty, taper your expectations on the actions of Formula One and the FIA to reprimand these said entities. All right. Just keep that in mind. It may not go down like you think it's supposed to. Think about it. Have they proven to you? Do you have enough trust in them to do the right thing by the book? Do you really? I don't. I don't, because they've proven that they shouldn't be trusted. They've proven they're willing to move the goalposts. Like a kicker would be pissed at Formula One and FIA. I can never get this ball in the net because you keep moving the goalpost. Every time I turn around and come downfield, the goalpost is here, it's there, it's moving around. They continuously move the goalposts for their own said reasons and are in the name of entertainment, not integrity. They need to get back to integrity. They need to make sure they do the right thing. Trust me, the sport still can be great. They've already made different changes. We got DRS to try to make it more lively and overtaking. Supposedly the new car is supposed to allow teams to follow closer together. I see the same teams up top that we saw last season. And maybe that mixed order has changed, but they're still there. You know, it's very minute. You know, the things we'll see what 2023 looks like. We'll see like what these teams look like as they get a handle on these cars, got more data. But more than this, we need to start seeing what the landscape of the rules being enforced will look like. Eric, TB4, Wolf, how do you feel about how Mercedes deals with budget cap? I can send you a link. I feel it's a little funny. I feel like you send me that link, I'll review it. I feel like Mercedes probably, if they're doing something funny with the budget cap, I'm pretty sure all other teams, I mean, you could probably find anything kind of funny about teams utilizing the budget cap because all teams and organizations find a way to try to funnel bits of money here and there. But definitely, you know, like I said, like Mercedes is not, I don't think Mercedes is completely in the clear. Now, if they get their certificate, it's a done deal. Say no more. Evidently, they're legal. If Red Bull gets their certificate, it's a done deal. Say no more. Evidently, it's legal. Haas gets their certificate. McLaren gets their certificate. Done deal. If everybody gets their certificate, I'm kind of questioning that. Like I said, where there's smoke, there is fire. This speculation doesn't come out of anywhere. Come on now. Now, you know, hey, it's things like that. But, you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. That's all I can say. We'll see what happens. We'll see what goes down from here. I just wanted to come on here, spend a little time with you all live, as this situation seems to be having a groundswell. Tomorrow we will supposedly we will see what teams get their certificates, as far as adhering to the cost cap, and what teams do not get their certificates as far as breaching the cost cap, and then what is to follow after that. Teams on the block right now that are of much higher concern are Red Bull, Aston Martin, and right now that's it. Red Bull and Aston Martin, but I also will toss Mercedes and McLaren up there. I will toss Aston Martin, Red Bull, Mercedes, and McLaren up there. Why? Because they are big dogs. They definitely have more of a competitive edge in finances as other teams, and therefore they have more money to try to find a way to make its way into other areas than other teams. Teams like Haas and Alpine and like Williams, they're strapped. Like they're really strapped. I mean, in regards to like the normal person, like millions and millions of dollars ain't strapped by anybody's concern. But as a Formula One team, they're strapped, right? They're probably pinching pennies and nickels trying to make sure that shit ain't going nowhere, and they not overspending anywhere, because that's not what they want to do. So I'm not really concerned about Alfa Romeo. I'm not really concerned about Haas. I'm not really concerned about Williams. But then again, how do we really know, right? How do we really know? We don't. It could very well be Williams went over. I doubt it. I mean, one way that you can look at the updates and upgrades list, right? You look at that. The teams who by far have the most upgrades, who bought several packages, and we know McLaren is one of the teams that bought by far the most upgrades thus far. They've bought 7 more upgrades to one GP, 8 more upgrades to a GP, and then some minor upgrades in between there. You got Williams that bought a butt ton of upgrades one time, but they haven't bought a lot since then. You got Haas, who definitely didn't do anything. They bought a butt ton, and then it just folded away. Mary Beanie, nobody could tell me Max didn't know what was going on last year. To all Max fans, Lewis had nothing to do with the Spygate. It was Mr. Salty and PK Jr. Facts. Facts. Um, People want to try to separate Max because of the Max already has. Max is not. Come on, Max been known as the dirty driver. Cool. Max is a talented driver. Yes. The RB18 is a fast rocket ship. Yes. Don't tell me with the way that his dad gets involved in things that there's no way that he knew if it was going on, it's going on. I'm going to ask you this. I'll ask you this. Why do you think Max felt like they should have let him finish his lap, although the car was underfueled? Why do you think Max, even knowing that the car was underfueled, Max felt they should have let me finish the lap? Why do you think he felt that way? Because I believe Max feels that way because he's already known that the Red Bull has gotten away with plenty. And Max probably felt like, if I know we was underfueled, but if y'all would have let me finish that lap because of the embellishment that would have came with it, I think they would have let us slide. I think they would have let the underfuel thing go. You know what I'm saying? We don't know because they aborted it. They aborted the lap. So we don't really know. But for Max to come on camera and say, yeah, basically you knew it was underfueled, but they should have let me finish the lap. Why? Why would you want to finish the lap that ain't going to even count? Unless you have some type of inkling to think that somebody may potentially let it go, and then we can have that pole position. Just saying. I ain't coming to the podium and be like, yeah, they should have let me finish that illegal lap. Why? Shit, it ain't gonna count. Pull me in. We don't even need to risk it. It's a wrap. Pull me in. It's a wrap. Like, we under fuel. Why the hell the car was under fuel is what I want to know. Who didn't fuel it right is what I want to know. But the last thing I'm worried about, like, okay, I want to finish this lap illegally. I'm more mad if I finish this lap and then find out that it doesn't count. I'm pissed. I'm pissed because somebody just ruined my opportunity. Somebody on my own team just ruined my opportunity. We need to get it figured out. But hey, I'm mad. Also, they called me in like the car's underfueled. I'm still mad, but at least I'm like, well, shit. At least I didn't have to see what was gonna be, and because it was never gonna be. But I'm pretty sure Max had a feeling in himself that he was gonna be allowed to slide by if he was to finish that lap. So the Wildcat, the FIA is the real Illuminati. Damn, that's how you feeling out here, Wildcat? That's how you feeling out here, man. He said they are the real Illuminati. Wildcat out here wilding on y'all. Big shout out to you. Big shout out to you. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Tomorrow is not far off. We gonna find out real soon. And don't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they push it off. I mean, it's Wednesday. They still got Thursday. They want to definitely probably get it done before a Friday practice. So I would not be surprised if, like, tomorrow we don't hear jack squat, and then Thursday we start hearing like rumblings and releases of what's going on. But they could really do what they say they're gonna do, and maybe they release everything as they said they would tomorrow. You know, not like late as hell at night where we go to sleep and it's basically Thursday before we find it out. I want this shit prime of day tomorrow for everybody to see, for everybody to react to, for everybody to know who did and who didn't. That's what I want. Right up front. Stop the bull. Stop the jiving. Let me see it. So I really appreciate y'all. Definitely, like Sylvie Killer says, smash that like button. She is the latest and newest Tier 2 VIP Purple Collection member. Big shout out to her. She was sporting her Purple Collection hat and shirt during the chat. Also, big shout out there. I'm gonna let y'all know there are more than a few people right on the crisp of getting their VIP Tier 1 boxes. I'm talking about, I looked at the sheet after updating over the weekend. There are more than a few people who are very, very close to getting their VIP Tier 1 Wolfpack boxes sent out to them. I'm not lying. Like, I was like, it's possible that we could end up giving out 3 to 4 of these on one show because they're that close. Like, I'm dead serious. They are that close. And several of you are still making your way and getting very hot. So just stay with it. Yeah, we do need to know. Damn right, we need to know. That's a very funny name that Clayton Bixby. But yeah. So big shout out to y'all. Stay tuned. I might go live tomorrow. Definitely might have more content coming out tomorrow. I'm gonna try to stay hot all week, but you already know we're gonna be live on Saturday for qualifying, and we'll be live on Sunday. Listen, I'm gonna have to be up at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm gonna be live. I'm dedicated. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be here, be up and lively. But I will be live for qualifying, just like always, and I'm gonna be live post race for Sunday's race, just like always. Party don't stop. Let the clock rock. Y'all stay up. Peace.